Welcome, everybody, to the Data Doesn't Equal Outcomes podcast, sponsored by CCNY. Behavioral health and human services organizations have to demonstrate outcomes. They have to run programs that make people better and prove it. And so the mad scramble for data is well underway. But data is just numbers, outcomes are just results, and connecting the two is the work. So if it has to do with driving better results for clients using a data-driven approach, we're covering it here on Data Doesn't Equal Outcomes. I'm very excited to introduce my guest today, Kim Herrington. Kim is a data journalist and the creator of #Buffalo Business Intelligence. She's made her career working in analytics roles with healthcare and human services organizations, and has recently been recognized as one of the top 20 emerging influencers for 2020 in big data, data science, and analytics. She's currently a double finalist as well for the Buffalo Emerging Technology Award Showcase in two categories, both the Good Neighbor and Tech Leader segments. But above all, she's a storyteller. So, Kim, very excited to have you on the show today.
Thanks so much. It's exciting to be here with you as well.
Great. So why don't we just jump right in? So, Kim, we've been talking a lot, and the term that comes out a lot is this phrase about getting to data. So we talk a lot about data and analytics, but really there's a process that's so much earlier than like running reports. So when you keep telling me this term, right, getting to data, tell us a little bit about what you mean.
Well, there's a lot of banter right now that's happening of people talking about learning to see data. But I think it is important that we talk about getting to the data in the first place, right? So where we talk about that is, have you ever seen the movie, what is it? It's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right? I love the movie. I'm a really big fan of the robot in the movie. I don't know about you.
Yep.
Are you?
It definitely deserves another watch.
I need to get my towel. So anyways, in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, there's this giant computer called Deep Thought, right? Do you remember this?
Yep, Deep Thought.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, Deep Thought is it. So it's this giant computer, and it took them, millions of years and billions of dollars to build this Deep Thought computer that would potentially give them the answer to life, the universe, to everything. And so they're
over timeline and over budget for sure.
Yes, definitely. Right. Well, they get to this point, so they build this giant thing, and they get to the point where we're going to this computer to ask it, okay, so give us the answer, have it be something simple that, we can understand. So the computer says, okay, well, after they've built it, come back in, 10 billion years and I'll give you the answer. And so they wait 10 billion years and they go back to this giant supercomputer. And there's people, they're there for a tailgate, they're like, yeah, it's the Super Bowl, we're here for the answer. They're face painting, they're cooking out and stuff. It's wonderful. And the computer says, okay, well, I have your answer, but you're not going to like it. They're like, tell us anyway. And then it's like, all right, well, the answer is 42. Right. So the whole buildup. And then your answer is 42, and everyone's like, "Well, what does that mean?" You said, "Well, you said it needed to be simple, and so that's about what I figured out." And they're like, "That's not it, that's not the ultimate answer to the life, universe, and everything. What is the ultimate answer?" And the computer says, "Well, to do that, you would have to ask me the ultimate question. So to get to the data, you have to ask the ultimate question." Thus setting off in the movie, this journey to find this truth ray gun, to actually get out of people what the actual question is that they're trying to ask. And, I feel like we need a little bit more truth ray guns out there. And for those of you that are not familiar with a data journalist, because I am one of few, I'm an endangered species, or actually more, not endangered, but more of an emerging species. We'll put it that way. We're just coming on. Yes, we're an emerging species.
I think that's more appropriate.
For this. So I know, right? With being, a data journalist, I turn over rocks, right, to get to the data. Mm-hmm. That's where it comes to.
Right.
It gets to being an internal consultant that anyone can come talk to. It's being that storyteller and navigator that you can have a conversation about where you're hoping to go and how you might get there. And it's coming up with lots of different new ideas. And so that kind of stems from my improv background of being able to, like, new choice, a new selection. If there's any improv or Whose Line Is It Anyway fans out there, the game New Choice, to, like, get to the data, to get to the thing. Have you ever heard of the concept of the 5 whys?
Yeah. It's sort of a planning tool for, getting a project started, right? I mean, in its most simplest terms.
Yes, exactly. But I promise you, if you go to an executive meeting and they tell you what they want to do, and you ask them, but why? But why? But why? Like Olaf style
right.
from Frozen. You're not going to get the response that you want back from the executives, and you're going to cause some frustration. So it really is about how do you get to those questions in a kind way.
So, when you think about this example from the Hitchhiker's Guide, and when you're talking about data, you have to ask the right questions in order to get the right data, right? But you as a data journalist, you ask the right questions of the people so that they can ask the right questions to create their data. Is that an accurate way to kind of frame the data journalism, concept, or one way you could look at it?
The way that I look at it is I come in at two different places. Like, I can come in at the very beginning of the requirement solicitation phase, or I can come in when someone is, like, building a final data visualization and they have all of the information. They think they have all of the information, and they're trying to put together a cohesive data story to, like, make sense of the information at the end. And I will say, like, I like both sides equally for this, but I do tend to prefer at the very, very beginning of helping people truly boil down to what the essence of what they're asking is. Because a lot of times what people are asking versus the essence of what they're asking are two completely different things.
Yeah, right.
And it takes frank, transparent, like, questions. It takes a lot of trust. It takes a lot of just, saying the thing as opposed to writing the thing down to be able to get out what people are looking for. Once you get to that point that you can get to the things that people want to know, what I'll typically do with this is, like, I'll take a spreadsheet and I'll put at the top of the list. It's just like, what do people want to know? And let people go nuts, right? And just writing out all of the questions of, like, what are they curious about? So, like, really, like, going into that, like, what are they curious about? What are they looking to find out? And then after you go through and you let them go nuts, you're facilitating. This is something that analysts, we need to switch more from a delivery phase to a facilitation phase. Because, again, like, I learned this from my mentor, Miko Yuck, if you define it, you own it. Right? So this is why people don't use the dashboards later on, is because they had to define all the requirements up at the beginning. And so the users weren't with them along the way to figure out what was being defined. So then they're not going to use it at the end. Yeah. So, you figure out all of those different things. Yes, exactly. You want them on board. You want them on the bus with you. Because at the end of the day, a report developer just wants to make their executives happy. They just want to provide value so we can promote actionable change. But if people aren't with us, working with us along this process, we can't actually have that relationship succeed.
Yep. Good points. So, we talk a lot about requirements here, and really the modern electronic health record has given us, a whole lot of options that we didn't have before. Yep. And they've been responding to demands for flexibility and customization, and rightly so. So here we are now in this era of, instead of here's your platform and here's how you use it, it's here's your platform and here's how you build it. And we've got all these form creators and custom report builders, and everything seems to be self-service if you can learn it and harness it. So from a technological standpoint, it's a faster and clearer path to data than it's ever been. But now we're kind of behind in this area of asking the right question. And so, I always say, like, with great data comes great responsibility. Well, with self-service comes, incredible pitfalls if the responsibility is all on you. You've got to build it the right way, right? So I think that you have a story that you're going to share with us.
Yeah, you, just in terms of self-service that you said, whose definition of self-service becomes important as well, because self-service can look different to many people. Self-service to some can look like an infographic that has just like one field that's changed, versus another person it can be self-service is access to a trusted data set, versus someone else's self-service is like just looking at a list of reports. Like, so what's the definition of self-service? Again, it comes down to communication. Yes. Right. So when we're talking about communication, and I get you with this, with everything we're discussing with EHRs, I attended a wonderful presentation actually by your very own David Monroe a couple of years ago for like his Dashboarding 101 course. David, I still tell David and Heidi that their Dashboarding 101 course is by far my favorite course in Western New York to physically send executives to, because there's no computers, like there's nothing, everything's done on paper, and it's just all really accessible, but it helps peel back the curtain for report developers to executives, to show them the steps that we need them to take with us, the path we need them to take with us to get to a final end result. And yes, actually, I would love to share a story that I enjoyed, the lessons that I had learned so much from those things, that I actually translated one lesson into a children's book for my daughter during the pandemic. And that's you had said you'd be interested in hearing about it.
Outstanding use of pandemic time. I love it. So I've heard about this. Haven't seen it. Looking very forward to this. Absolutely. So Kim's going to share her screen, I believe, and we'll have a few visuals. But I think she mentioned the essence of this story will be told through the narrative for sure.
Yes. So be kind, because I'm going on the thought of, production beats perfection. I did this for my daughter. It's, there's errors and stuff like that throughout. It was just something fun that she and I drew over the summer. So happy to share it with you. But with that, great. I do believe Royal Requirements has the essence of teaching people why it's important to communicate using talking about requirements at the beginning of a process versus the end. So with that, I'm going to I proudly present the Royal Requirements.
Such a great title.
All right, so hang on one second. We could edit the okay. Let's see. Okay, first checking. Are you able to see this?
Yes, looks great.
Okay, let me just take a sip of water. Just for reference,
I wish I had like a drum roll.
Well, just another thing, the illustrator on this version says Courtney Bell. I was actually hoping for it to have this person illustrate this for me. Like, I was trying to do this as potential artwork for her so she could like do it better for me, because I am by far not an illustrator. I'm a storyteller, not an illustrator. She ended up going off on her own and becoming like mega famous on Facebook for her art, and she couldn't help it. So she owns Disorganized Joy. So I do recommend you to go there, but the illustrations are not done by her. They are my own. Okay. So.
Well, storyboard it is.
Yeah, storyboard it is. Wireframe. Production beats perfection. So the Royal Requirements, as retold by Kimberly Herrington, for her daughter, who is a 3-year-old. Okay, so once upon a time, there was a strong, smart, beautiful, and kind princess. The princess imagined building the most beautiful, big, blue castle made from rocks. To get started, the princess knew she'd need a big, blue, square rock to serve as the cornerstone for her castle. For those of you that are listening, there is a princess who is imagining a big blue square castle, okay? And so she is calling her loyal royal advisor. When her loyal royal advisor came to the throne room, she declared, "My most loyal royal advisor, please fetch me a rock." Having done many other tasks for the princess before, the loyal royal advisor declared, "Oh, okay, sure, no big deal," and set off in search for a rock. The artwork on this page, for those listening, is a queen that is imagining a big blue rock, and then you see the loyal royal advisor who has made other reports and things for the queen, and she's just like, "Oh yeah, I can find a rock. I know where they are." And she's like thinking about maybe a rock being used as like a bicycle wheel or something else. But they're just like, "Yeah, I know where to find rocks. Let's go."
Yeah, sure, easy.
Exactly. So the loyal royal advisor set off on her quest down the royal palace steps, through the winding roads of the village, and down a steep hill by a stream, where there was a great big pile of rocks to choose from. When the loyal royal advisor got to the stream bed, she saw 5 billion rocks to choose from. But because there's 5 billion rocks and she knew she just needed a rock, it only took her 5 minutes to find a beautiful, small, round, red rock. She thought, "This will be perfect for my princess. It fits in your hand just so and matches her favorite red dress. It would make for lovely jewelry." So with the red rock in hand, the loyal royal advisor climbed up the steep hill by the stream, through the winding roads of the village, up the royal palace steps, and waited 5 minutes to be called in to see the princess in the royal throne room. Upon entering the royal throne room, the loyal royal advisor announced, "My princess, I have found you a rock." The princess took one look at the red rock and imagined it as the cornerstone of her castle. As she realized it was the wrong fit, she said, "Ugh, I'm sorry. I wanted a square rock." We're getting it.
And that comes out immediately.
Yes, exactly. You've got the, on the art it actually showed on the page. You've got the princess who's like looking at it. She's like, "That small red round rock is not gonna be a cornerstone for a giant castle." But whereas the loyal royal advisor is imagining, "Oh wait, no, I saw a red rock there. Dude, I can do this. I got it. I know where to find a red rock. I know where to find it. Okay, cool. I know where to find a square rock rather. There's other rocks there." So the loyal royal advisor remembered seeing a rock like that, so she said, "Oh, okay, no big deal," and she left again. The loyal royal advisor set off on her quest down the royal palace steps, through the winding roads of the village, and down the steep hill by the stream, where there was a great big pile of rocks to choose from. When the loyal royal advisor got to the stream bed, there was the same 5 billion rocks to choose from, but only a few this time were square. So this time it took her 10 minutes to find the perfect square, small, red rock. So, with the small, square, red rock in hand, she set off on her journey up the steep hill by the stream, through the winding roads of the village, up the royal palace steps, and waited 10 minutes to be called in to see the princess in the royal throne room. Upon entering the throne room, the loyal royal advisor announced, "My princess, I have found you a square rock." The princess took one look at the rock and imagined it as the cornerstone of her castle she wished to build, and realized it was the wrong fit. It was a small rock, in the artwork you can see a small rock that was a square. It's like, it's still not going to hold up a castle, right? It's the wrong size. So the princess says out loud, okay, I'm sorry. I wanted a big square rock. The advisor remembered seeing a rock like that. So she said, oh, okay, no big deal. And she left again. And she set off in her quest again, down the royal palace steps, through the winding roads of the village, and down the steep hill by the stream, where there was a giant pile of rocks to choose from. When the loyal royal advisor got to the stream beds, she saw the same 5 billion rocks to choose from, but only a few were square. And only a few of those were big, too. So it took her about 15 minutes to really locate what the perfect, big, square, red rock was. So with this big, square, red rock in her arms, she started her journey. But this big, square, red rock was very heavy. And the loyal royal advisor was starting to feel pretty tired from all of her trips back and forth. You see in the key art here, you've got a girl that's trying to, take this gigantic rock. If you can imagine it, if you're sitting at home, imagine just, having your arms out and carrying this heavy load, You're at the end of the thing, you've gone back and forth, you've got another heavy load, and you're bringing it back, trying to stay positive. And so,
it's your
nevertheless,
third trip out to the moving truck.
Yes, it is the third trip out to the moving truck. Your friend promised you pizza. You're hoping for pizza at the end of the thing, and you're like, "This couch better be worth it." And you're like, "No, okay, come on." But then then it's like, "Oh, by the way, I live up on the third floor of the apartment." You're like, "What?"
It's an attic apartment.
Come on, I signed on to move, but I didn't sign on for that, Oh, God. So she persisted on her journey, and she carried that big red rock up the steep hill by the stream, and she's grunting the whole way. Ugh! Through the winding roads of the village. Up the 100 royal palace steps. And this time she's waiting 15 minutes because the princess, she's a busy gal. She just can't just come right out. Mm-hmm. She's holding this rock, waiting to see this princess in the royal throne room. Upon entering the throne room, though, the loyal royal advisor bucked up and she's just like, all right, my princess, I have found you a big square rock. The princess took one look at the rock and imagined it as the cornerstone for her castle that she wanted to build, this big blue, beautiful castle in this big red square rock, and it realized it didn't fit. And she said, ugh, I'm sorry, I wanted a big blue square rock. Deep breaths, everyone. Deep breaths. But this time, the advisor did not reply there with their quick, oh, okay, no big deal. This time, they took some deep breaths, and she put the big, square, red rock down on the ground, and she sat on it. Wait a minute, said the loyal royal advisor to the princess. The loyal royal advisor was quite tired, and frustrated, and disappointed, and even a little bit angry. She took a deep breath and asked, my princess, could you tell me what you intend to do with this rock? The princess brightened and launched into a story about the grand big blue castle she wished to build and how she needed a grand big blue square rock as its cornerstone. Well, why didn't you tell me? Asked the loyal royal advisor, who was brimming with excitement over the princess's vision. You never asked, said the smiling princess as they laughed and began writing down a list of royal requirements to fit the perfect rock. If you're looking at the art for this, there's a scroll that says royal requirements, and the scroll reads, goal, builds a big blue castle, need, big blue rocks, friends to help carry them, touch base meetings. So together, the princess and the loyal royal advisor built the grand blue castle and went on to complete many more projects that made the kingdom prosper and flourish for many years to come. And they lived happily ever after. The end. That was The Royal Requirements by Kimberly Herrington.
That is outstanding. Oh, man. Now we get to unpack it. There's so much good stuff in there. I must be thinking about 100 different scenarios and projects. Each one has its sticking point at the beginning, and the middle, and the end. But, I was just talking to a friend of mine today, and, I was just asking for advice on a question he got, and it was I can't open this report. I need your help. And after, it was like a corrupt file or something. And after days of, I'll try this, I'll let you know, I'll see what I can do, I'll get back to you. At the end of the day, once the question, what do you need, finally got asked, the answer was, oh, I have that in another place, known, and it works, and I could have given that to you straight away. But both the person with the need didn't ask the question, and neither did the person trying to facilitate. There were two opportunities for somebody to say, hey, what's the need? And it just didn't happen. But we've got this bigger story here. So why don't we dive into this? How is this relatable to our data folks, and really highly applicable, not just to data, but this is a big conversation in health and human services.
Well, how do you get to the data? It ties back to that. It's tying back to, before you even get to the information that you need, you have to have a conversation about what you intend to do with the information once you have it.
Right.
So I think it was definitely, I really enjoy this story. I had shown this story to another friend of mine who was an illustrator, and she's just like, where is this story? I need it now. And I found out how much she cost to do the art, and I just didn't have the money to pay her. She's so skilled, and she's doing like artwork for SNL, and I really badly wanted her to do it. But I was just like, I can't afford that much. But she's just like, this story was great for her because it touches on so many different pieces for people that are within analytics and outside of analytics, right? It talks about the importance of communication, and it really highlights, I like this story, and she's the one that pointed this out, and she's like, neither one of them was wrong in this story. There was no finger point. Like, they were both they both had made mistakes along this way. The princess on the one hand for, not asking perhaps the ultimate question, right? She didn't have her truth gun to give the ultimate, question of what she was looking for. And the report developer, she wasn't really like looking at, she made the assumption. So the report developer made assumptions, just based off of their working history, which she maybe shouldn't have made. So there's both parts of this. And the other part of this is that at the end of the story, notice that no one ever said, there was no need to say, I'm sorry, right? For this, there was no having to have a good discussion of like he said, she said. There wasn't that. It was like sharing a passion, and when you're sharing your vision and like what you really hope to do, and like really getting on board with that, it's just like it's infectious, and it gets other people invested in what you want to do, and they want to get on the bus with you, and they're like, oh, okay, I feel better because it was transparent in that what you were trying to accomplish, and because, I like your vision so much, and I'm on board, and by the way, there is this cool rock by the river that if you like this blue castle that you're going to make, there's these neat red rocks, so what if you made this cool, bridge out of red rocks, like yes-anding the things to add to it, right?
Yep.
So it's cool. She found that small red rock for jewelry or something. Who knows?
Yeah, and I think, direct application, when we started this conversation by talking about EHRs and self-service and flexibility, but very often your report builders are different people from your input builders. The EHR sort of administrator folks that they have the keys to that, create the inputs, and then they, take data and pass it over to report builders. And when report builders are not there at the beginning to be able to ask those questions, I mean, you can talk about just the big picture misses, but to drill it down to a specific, if you're creating a field that should only have numbers in it, but it allows letters, just something as simple as that miscommunication is going to create, issues of building that blue castle, right, at the end.
Yes.
So if your report builders are not in your first meeting, they should be.
Yeah. It's true. I think one of the smartest things that I've ever seen one of the healthcare providers that I've worked for do is before they would build any new fields or any new reports or any new modules, they had a discussion with both the analytics team as well as like the clinical teams to say, what are you trying to do? And then, for every new form that was built was also simultaneously built a report. So they would have both,
right.
And they would be able to say, okay, using this form, you are able to get this report out of it. And so really giving people the thing of like, okay, so this is the information on aggregate that we can extract, and having that conversation up at the front before you could final approve anything. So nothing else was built until you knew what was coming out of it. So that was really, really useful.
Yeah.
But something you did touch on just a couple minutes ago was like just that communication between a form builder and a report developer type thing, and like the actual and the stakeholder that's getting the information. Something that's fraught for a lot of requirement gatherers and people in analytics is that the remembering that we're all human, and we feel like just because we're dealing with data, we forget the human side. So sometimes there's a little bit of trauma that can happen, right? When people are requesting these things.
Absolutely. You have hit on one of my favorite topics, which is very prevalent in behavioral health and human services, right? Trauma-informed care. But it doesn't get talked a lot about outside of the treatment sort of treatment practices. It does get mentioned as an agency structure, but yeah, data and quality improvement tend to miss this. And it's in your story. It's the sigh. It's that tension moment of we're all working super hard and not getting what we need or what we want. And you started to mention the princess was getting, she was sorry, but also starting to get a little frustrated, a little bit angry. And when these projects go this way, you don't want to do them again, right? They become
maybe that's the passive aggressive
stigma.
The princess,
that stigma
like,
that quality improvement carries. Yeah,
like the
exactly.
You noticed the wait time was increasing each time, if you noticed. So it wasn't like
I was thinking to myself,
it necessarily like that, but like it's true. If you've got an executive that isn't getting what they want right at first, like right their value, right, they're going to put off the meeting, or they're going to reschedule it, or they're going to do something else, and that is frustrating for analysts. Like that's actually one of my minor pet peeves. Is I know that people are busy, I know it. But for an analyst that has put together a report, if you've got like 12 tabs open to show an executive some kind of a presentation of like what they asked for, and then they reschedule and like you have to like close all those things, it is much easier working from home. I'm very happy working from home because you didn't have to like go to a boardroom with all of your handouts and stuff like that, and then the requirements change, and then you have to reprint documents.
Absolutely.
So it's much better now.
Data and quality improvement had a big boost with the work from home by putting everybody one screen share. But I think on the quality informed idea, with quality improvement's always the bad guy, and this is one of the reasons, because projects can get run this way, and people's impression of collecting data is such a traumatic event where everybody's frustrated, nobody gets what they want. And, I don't mean to minimize sort of, clinical trauma, but it's real. And when you want to have partners in data and partners in quality improvement, you've got to make sure you're doing requirements gathering in a way that produces results. And like you said, actionable data. And once there's value, there's buy-in. And I think that your story really illustrates it. I also couldn't help but start thinking to myself, well, that loyal royal advisor can't wait to get through the Blue Rock project because she wants to talk about office wait times next because they keep growing.
Yes. Yeah. It's frustrating because it feels like rework sometimes. Like it's like if you don't have the stuff that you need to do it right the first time, right, then it feels like rework. Like, oh my gosh, I have to go back down this path, down to the river, back to through this, like going through the winding roads of the village. I have to pass that guy that I don't want to pass his desk, and for these things. And as you're doing that, it's just like am I operating at the top of my professional level when I'm being forced to get the same rocks over and over again? And that, there's that frustration that can build there. So yes, it's tough because it's from both sides. Whereas the princess just wants to build the castle so she can help her constituents, versus the loyal royal advisor, like you said, that wants to help the royal constituents get through the throne room faster so they can get a bag of wheat or something.
Yeah. And so I always talk about taking a a trauma-informed approach to data and analytics. And what that means to me is you can't change a lot of what has to be done conceptually. We have to collect data. We have to analyze it. It's not really about making that an option or not. It's really about acknowledging to those folks on the front line that you're working with that you understand that maybe their software is inadequate. You understand that they have a history of bean counting from paper files or from, systems that, aren't conducive, and they get anxiety at the end of the month when somebody says, I need your numbers, right? So doing as much as we can to take that burden of reporting off of them. And until you can do that, let them know that that's what you want to do. Hey, my end goal is so that I give you the numbers, not you give them to me. And just setting that culture of support and an acknowledgement of the past, which hasn't been great for a lot of clinical folks when it comes to data.
And we work together to get those numbers, right? So that it's letting them know that where you want, how you want to get there together. One of my favorite things to do to get people to transfer between, paper to electronic EHRs and stuff like that. One of the hesitations actually was that people were worried that their numbers were going to be bad the first time around, that they didn't want to be able to instantly pull that information because they were nervous that the information the first time it was pulled was going to be terrible. And it wasn't until I got in there to talk to people and be like, I love ugly data. I love bad data the first time you pull it. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because if you have terrible data the first time you pull it, and you have terrible numbers the first time you pull it, there's a trajectory that you've got no place to go but up. And so it makes it super easy to show your progress from there. So if you've got terrible numbers the first time, good on you. It's going to make the next couple quarters a lot easier for you to show your progress and actually show it. So don't be afraid to have that ugly baby of data. Nobody wants to have that ugly, nobody wants to have ugly data, right? But I'm like, show me the ugly babies. It's exciting, because unless you see it, you can't move forward from it. So it really is, it's about building that trust with people and saying how you want to get there together. And the other thing to remember too is a phrase that I like to use is, that I've learned from public health is nothing for us without us. So use this approach when you are working with your stakeholders. It's nothing for us without us. Unless they're a part of a process going through, they're not going to use you can build the most beautiful dashboard. It's the most effective dashboard you've ever built in your life, but data visualization, whatever you want to call it. But unless they felt a part of it and they understand how it's actionable and they are not afraid to ask questions and they feel like they can, you're not going to get it used.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, from personal experience, I built a clinical dashboard once, and it was getting my usage metric on it was high. It was being opened.
Mm-hmm.
It was being looked at. And I'm like, this is great. I got all the digital feedback I need that says, job well done. And then anecdotally, I was meeting with one of the team leaders, and I said, hey, it seems like you're getting a lot of use out of that dashboard. Like, which reports do you find particularly useful? And the answer was, oh, we only look at one of the pages on there, and it's just to check which forms need to be completed still. And like my heart sank. I'm like, there's all this like analytics, and there's this amazing math in there, and we didn't build it together. And I have to own that they had 10 pages of analytics, and what they were using was the least analytical and only the least analytical part of it. And I'd love to do that again. I'm sure we all have do-overs we'd love to take.
The question that I have for you, though, is that when that happened, though, did you take time for yourself to like kind of give yourself like, hooray, they're accessing it to use at least a part of it? Because that, I feel like, is one of the hardest barriers to overcome, is like getting people to the right area to start using the information. So we need to celebrate our successes a little bit too, and the fact that, oh, I'm so glad that you've got that one report from there. Like, would it be helpful if that's the one that you're using the most, that we move it to a more prominent location on the screen? And what other types of things are you curious about that are within the other reports that I can put in a more prominent location for you to be able to access quicker?
Yeah. I didn't stick in the role long enough after that conversation, but could have used that
and
advice
why?
right
That's
then and there.
important.
No, I agree. I think that
was it because
build off what is working. No, it was not.
Yep. Okay. I don't know. Like, because, those, we talk about it being trauma-informed care. It's like, but we have to remember that those tiny little interactions add up for us as report development. Like, a lot of us work from home alone, and we don't communicate with anybody at work sometimes. Like, we're just doing, we're making the cogs that we, so you really need to have, that's where kind of the importance of your community comes into play, like of having, if you don't have one at work, just join one online, like the hashtag Buffalo Business Intelligence. Like, that's a great place to connect with the other people within, the analytics sphere, and like saying, oh, I hate it when this happens. And then somebody be like, oh yeah, but you did this good, right? But you're not going to find necessarily other people that are going to like lift you up, especially if you're the one person, you're the one report developer for a company. It's tough feeling alone, but you don't need to. There, between Facebook and LinkedIn, there's different meetup groups and things, so don't feel alone. There are communities out there. Yep. There's mine. You can come join us when we do our meetings every first June and December, the first Wednesday of the month. We do it at night, and you get to meet a whole bunch of data nerds that come out. It's not sponsored by any major business, so we can speak freely. So I run it. I used to be an event planner, and so it's really like a one-woman show, but made so we can have ad hoc conversations. You're not being sold anything, but it's so you can connect with your peers. And I know that's actually how you got a number of your employees actually at CCNY. It's because people came from your organization and said this is cool things, and found other people that were willing to on their their own time to meet up with other people doing cool things with data and analytics. So find those people for your support and lean on them.
Absolutely. So I think that's going to do it for us today. We've had a great time with our guest, Kimberly Herrington. Please check out hashtag Buffalo Business Intelligence. Join that community. Stay connected. My name is Tristan Keelan. I've been your host of the Data Doesn't Equal Outcomes podcast. Enjoy your day, everybody.